Hello, this is Tessa Kegel, and this is HBS5OHC, Identifying and Controlling Hazards, Workplace Biological Hazards and Diseases, Measurement and Management of Chronic and Acute Exposures and Effects on Workers' Health, and this is part 1 of 3. This is the Commonwealth of Australia Copyright Warning Act from 1968. So the objectives for this module are to access, interpret and apply information about the toxic effects of selected biological hazards in the workplace, to identify and describe the routes of entry of biological hazardous substances to humans, to identify the appropriate requirements for and use of expert assistance to reduce workers' biological hazard exposures and manage related dose and health impacts, and finally, to develop, evaluate and maintain a safe system of work based on accurate information relating to control of exposures to biological hazards for workers. This module aims to provide an understanding of the mechanism of action and the toxic effects of selected biological hazards on the human body. It explores the short and long-term dose of health effects on workers, the means and routes of exposure, and strategies for hazard identification and management. Infectious organisms can be found in many workplaces and home or community environments. Richards describes the various biological poisons from plants and animal toxins. Earth is home to an impressive array of toxic and venomous organisms that are capable of inflicting injury or death to humans. When it comes to producing poisons, nature in general produces chemicals far more toxic than anything a human can concoct. Many have been used for research purposes to study physiological mechanisms, a number are used clinically, and others have served as prototypes to develop synthetic chemicals of medical importance. Toxins are poisonous substances produced by living things, usually for the purpose of defense or predation. Biological hazards. Many of the biological hazards dealt with in OHS context are toxins. This term is usually applied to toxicants with a biological origin, which are categorized based on the organism that produces them. Bacteria, fungi, mycotoxins, algae, phycotoxins, plants, phytotoxins, and animals, zootoxins. Some of these biological hazards, or biohazards, are highly related to particular occupational groups. For example, healthcare workers are at risk of exposure to HIV and hepatitis, and those working with animals are exposed to particular zoonoses. Now we'll go into this in much more detail a little bit later. So now we'll go into some detail about microorganisms and their characteristics. So first, we have bacteria. Bacteria are one-cell organisms visible only through a microscope. They range in size from 0.2 micrometers to 10 micrometers. Some spiral organisms may be up to 100 micrometers, but the majority are less than 5 micrometers. Cell structure enables them to function without subcellular organelles. They're classified according to their shape. The three basic shapes are round, rod-shaped, or spiral. Some bacteria cause disease, i.e. they're pathogenic. Most are non-pathogenic and many are very useful. The majority of bacteria coexist with humans and many are necessary to plant and human life. Bacteria exist in the human intestine and feed on other harmful microscopic organisms. So, who's at risk? Many bacteria are found in soil, plants and animals or human waste. Outdoor workers, farmers, veterinarians, waste management workers, research staff working in laboratories, as well as hospital and healthcare staff are those most exposed to bacteria in the working environment. So next we come to viruses. Viruses are the smallest of the microorganisms and vary in size between 20 and 250 nanometers. The largest virus is equivalent in size to the smallest of the bacteria. Viruses are so small they can only be viewed under an electron microscope. Viruses come in a variety of shapes, and it is the shape which is the defining characteristic of the virus. The basic shapes are rods, filaments, crystals, helixes, polyhedrons, and spheres. The outer surface of these foreign bodies can cause an immune response in the host after infecting it, and these substances are termed antigens. Viruses have an existence which could be described as half alive or half dead, which means that they can only survive if they can find and attach themselves to a host cell. In other words, they are obligate parasites. When they enter a living cell, they start to rearrange the structure of the host cell to meet their own needs to reproduce. Once the virus has taken over this host cell, the host cell dies and the newly produced viruses are free to attack other host cells, thus multiplying even further. Viruses are the most common cause of infection in the respiratory and digestive systems of humans. Once the virus has taken hold of the cells and starts to spread through the body's immune system kicks in and starts to fight the virus. With antiretroviral agents and the immune system working together, most viruses only have a short lifespan and a full recovery is possible. Measles, mumps, and rubella are just a few of these viruses from which the human body usually makes a complete recovery. Certain viruses can persist for long periods of time in the body or become latent in the host's body, which mean that they live and reproduce in the host cell without killing the cell. Such viruses include the herpes virus strains and the more serious Hep B virus. Viruses are not generally affected by antibiotics.